Serious issues outlined in this report: money laundering, organised crime links. How did it react?
Well, we didn't get much of a reaction from Star today. It was just a very short statement saying that they're considering the report. As you mentioned, they now have 2 weeks to prepare a response and come up with a way to explain to the regulator why they should still keep their licence, despite a plethora of issues, some of which you mentioned: money laundering, underpaying taxes. The list really goes on. Misleading regulators themselves is another one. So we'll see what they come back with in a couple of weeks.
So what does happen now?
Well, we've seen that state regulators can be very forgiving when it comes to misdemeanours done by casinos. We have an example that's just run through in Crown. Crown also had a very damning report into it, also got wrapped over the knuckles by the regulators and was at risk of losing its licence. We saw what happened there was they had to overhaul their management and board, completely change their culture, implement risk management systems, but then they were allowed to retain their licence and it was back to business as usual. Now, a couple of things. Yes, they do have to have an independent monitor watching the business for the next couple of years, and of course there were some fines, but by and large the expectation is that Star will also be allowed to retain its licence. What is a little different this time around is that Star saw what was happening to Crown. The Crown process started earlier. Star could have looked at that and thought, maybe we should start cleaning up our own operations, but they didn't do anything about it until they really had to. So you did hear the New South Wales regulator, Philip Crawford, today talk about institutional arrogance, saying that Star really thinks it's above the law. They're going to need to convince the regulators that they're not in that mindset anymore.
But the price whack at the post office will come sooner than that. From Monday week, inflation bites here too, with the cost of everything from mailing a parcel to the satchel it's wrapped in, all going up. Gemma Acton, 7 News.
As a chemist, Edwin Lowe's hobby was collecting limited edition sneakers, until he and some friends were scammed and he threw in his pharmacy job to stop others from being cheated.
All these people who were so passionate about sneakers, but then there was also so many fake sneakers infiltrating the marketplace, and so there had to be someone to protect these buyers.
Edwin opened the secret sneaker store in Sydney, Melbourne and online, reselling limited edition sneakers. 30 authenticators, like June, help customers tell the fakes from the real deal.
Obviously, you don't want to be the one to tell them.
June looks at the shoe symmetry, the logo and the stitching. But the biggest giveaway of a real sneaker?
You kind of want to smell it again, whereas the fake pairs of shoes kind of gives you a headache, so you don't want to smell that again.
Demand is so high for limited edition Nike and Adidas sneakers in Australia now that tens of thousands will sell out within seconds of release.
If a shoe is popular and there was a designer that was a music artist, a celebrity, then that pushes the price up. If it's very limited, the price goes up as well.
Prices start from around $100 for these simple Nike Dunks, but for a pair like these, made in collaboration with celebrity rapper Travis Scott, you'll be forking out a cool $4,000.
Steep price tags, but often one pair isn't enough.
Definitely need more. I've got to expand my collection.
I'm really fussy, so it's quite difficult.
Gemma Acton, 7 News. This was the captain speaking, and the message was, fasten your seatbelts.
It's fair to say this has been an extremely challenging time for the Qantas Group.
Announcing an underlying loss before tax of $1.86 billion. Total reported pandemic losses of $7 billion. $25 billion in revenue lost.
Qantas has seen COVID cost us more money in the past 3 years than we made in the 5 years before that.
People are flying again, but Qantas wasn't ready. Long queues, delayed flights, lost luggage, labour shortages after 10,000 redundancies.
We're the first to admit we haven't gotten everything right lately.
Mr Joyce says things are improving quickly, with performance set to approach pre-pandemic levels as early as next month. But some are now wondering whether his performance has been up to scratch.
One union questioning his $5 million salary package.
Such a heartbreaking story, and sadly not an uncommon one. Network Finance Editor Gemma Acton joins us on the panel now. Gemma, gut-wrenching. We pride ourselves in doing better than most countries, but some Australians are doing it really tough.
Oh, Mark, they are. Millions of Australians had their worlds turned on their head back in March. Now, the saving grace at the time was that help came both rapidly and plentifully from both the public sector and the private sector. A lot of those measures, though, that were put in place were given a very arbitrary timeline of 6 months before they expired. And so now we're coming up against that point where many measures are rolling off at once. Job Seeker and Job Keeper are both being wound back at the moment, and the criteria has been tightened. The banks are reviewing their loan deferral programs and trying to unwind that. We're seeing that a lot of rent deferrals and the ban on evictions were supposed to wind up after 6 months. Some of the stimulus payments are exhausted now, the $750 one-off payments done twice. So early super's done as well. So we're getting to the point where how will people manage this transition from all of this support that they've had? Household income actually went up in the June quarter to the period where they won't have so much ready support.
And that's the point, isn't it? That we're winding back the support, so the economy then has to lift, has to take up. And this all comes off in March. What happens beyond March?
We'll have to wait and see. I think what we need to remember is, though, the pandemic keeps evolving, the economic situation keeps evolving. So what was appropriate in March 2020 is not necessarily appropriate in March 2021. The big fear, of course, though, is that some of these band-aid measures are being removed too quickly, and that transition from a lot of support to businesses and individuals being able to stand on their own 2 feet and support themselves is happening too rapidly. And of course, the risk there is that if we're seeing businesses not able to support workers or not think they need as many workers once JobKeeper is wound back or removed, we have suddenly workers who lose their jobs, they can't afford their rent, they can't afford their mortgages, they can't contribute to the economy like they were, and then we could see this recovery start to go backwards.
And they get used to that support, so weaning off that support is going to be so difficult for those people and those companies. Now,
the Aussie dollar came within a whisker of reaching 69 US cents. That was before starting to slide again this afternoon, while oil continues to claw its way back towards 100 US dollars. And for the first time in 2 years, the total value of housing stock in Australia is falling, down by $162 billion in the past 3 months to clock in at just under a still staggering $10 trillion. Mark.
So footy fans have accused airlines of jacking up prices ahead of interstate finals.
Yes.
And so I'm just having a nice...
I can confirm.
Sorry, it's not a boo-hiss theatre, guy. I'm just having a nice chat with our finance editor. So they have done it?
Yes, they have.
Okay.
Yes.
Would you like to ask the question with verve?
Would you like to answer the question?
Kylie doesn't have a question. She has an opinion on this. And, no, it's happening all over, right?
Yeah, well, and then
they're dropping them straight away.
Yeah.
So is this supply and demand? Is that basic model?
It is supply and demand, yes. Every time a seat is bought, prices go up. This has been ridiculous, though, and it's generated, rightly, a lot of bad publicity. So the airlines have added on more flights, which is why you've seen the prices start to come down a little bit again. So if you tried to buy last weekend or at the start of this week, you would have paid a tremendous amount or probably been priced out. There are a few more seats available now.
I'm thinking, is the guy in the pricing office sitting there watching, for example, the Swans play on Saturday night, right? And the second the siren goes, is he sitting there putting the price up for the Sydney-Melbourne flight?
Yes, except your guy is a computer. It's an algorithm. So every time a seat is bought, it automatically recalculates to make the next seats more expensive.
You would love that if all you guys were computers.
Straight to Liam Tapper in the New South Wales Hunter Valley. Liam, good evening. You've been spending time with a family of a very unwell baby boy, rescued from their flooded home so he could be treated. A very emotional 24 hours. How is everyone doing tonight?
Yeah, good evening to you, Gemma. We certainly have. That young boy, it's Huey. He's really the miracle story of these floods up here in the Hunter Valley. And this afternoon, I was fortunate enough to spend some time with his family, and I can report that he is doing very well.
The bulk carrier stranded off the coast of Sydney all week is under the control of the Maritime Safety Authority tonight. The Portland Bay lost power on Sunday, setting off an almighty mission to tow it to Port Botany. The vessel won't be free to go until inspectors are happy its engine problems are fixed and compliant. School holidays are drawing to a close in some states, and that's going to spell mayhem at our airports. Blake Johnson has more from Melbourne's Tullamarine.
Gemma, good evening. Another big test for airlines and airports tomorrow, and also, it might be said, the patience of travellers.
Well, thank you for your company this evening from the team here at 7 News. That is the latest. I'm Gemma Acton. Good night.